Hi, my name is Platt, and I'm going to show you how I use custom settings in order to change my exposures in a rapidly changing environment. So a wedding, as you know, is a very difficult situation where you have all sorts of different lighting conditions. For instance, at a wedding itself, when you're in a really dark chapel, they may have the stage lit perfectly, but the crowd is not. And then, of course, when you get outside, it's super bright. And so all of those become very big challenges, especially because things are moving and you're going back and forth between those exposures. So I use custom settings constantly in order to make sure that I get the exposure right at all times and I do it easily. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So when I am in a wedding, the first thing that I do is I go up to the stage and I look at that exposure and get the exposure correct. You got to arrive a little bit early to do this. Maybe just 10 minutes of time is all it's going to take you to get all your custom settings together. But I'm going to look at that stage and I'm going to get the exposure correct. Once I have the exposure correct, and let's say that that's going to be 2.8 at 200th of a second at, say, ISO 1600. Say that's the perfect exposure for that stage. In that case, I'm going to then go into my custom settings. Now, the custom settings are located on my camera right up here in the dial. You're going to have to check out your custom settings on your particular camera inside of your camera's manual. But most cameras nowadays have custom settings. So my custom settings are set here as C1, C2, and C3. Now, when I set my custom settings, I need to make sure that I have all of my settings exactly the way I want them. That includes whether I'm shooting RAW or JPEG. It includes the flash compensation. It includes every single thing I see up here, including my white balance and even my shutter mode, whether it's in silent or whether it's in high speed. So make sure that all of your settings are exactly the way you want them, including whether you're on manual or aperture priority mode, because if I'm in aperture priority mode and I create a custom setting, it will become an aperture priority custom setting. So just make sure that everything is exactly the way you want it for that specific scenario. And then you're going to go into your menus and you're going to click on the custom shooting mode and you're going to register that setting as shoot mode C1. And that's going to be our first setting. Then I simply turn around and look at, say, the crowd where I know that they are not lit and it's much, much darker, and I'm going to change that exposure until it's perfect for that specific scenario. I'll go back into my custom menus and I'll click on C2. And then I'm going to run outside and I'm going to figure out what the perfect exposure is for facing into the church as I walk out that door trying to get a picture of the bride and groom coming out with birdseed flying around. That's the shot that I really, really want to get, so I make sure that that's perfectly exposed as well, and I set that on custom mode 3. Now I have 3 specific custom modes that I can flip through at the drop of a hat. So I can shoot the stage, and then I can turn around and just flip to custom mode 2, take a picture of the mom crying, and then as I'm walking out and I'm taking pictures of them coming down the aisle, and then as soon as I get outside, as soon as those doors open, I simply flip to custom mode 3, and bam, I'm shooting and I've got the perfect exposure every single time. So I encourage you to look at your custom mode settings. Remember, make sure that everything is exactly the way you want it before you set your custom mode. And if you do that, I can guarantee you that's going to change the way you photograph.